So I want to introduce myself briefly and then get going about artificial intelligence. So my college education was in engineering, a part of engineering that's a lot of math. So it's operations research and industrial engineering. And when I got a master's degree, I went to Penn State, nice shirt. When I was starting my master's degree, one of the professors, this was in the early 80s, and the professor who I was working with was doing work in what's called neural networks. And I was absolutely fascinated. And then unfortunately, before we got very far in his project, he took a position at Bucknell, left Penn State. I didn't go with him, and that was the end of me and neural networks. But that was the time when in science fiction they were talking about AI. And I just thought it was way cool, particularly driverless cars. So like when my youngest son was 5 and I was driving him to, 4 or 5 I guess, I was driving him to daycare. The older 2 were in school, I'm driving Noah to daycare, trying to teach him letters and how to spell, and we'd see a stop sign. I never will forget this. And he'd do S-T-O-P, and he was so proud of himself that he could do S-T-O-P. And I remember saying, Noah, when you grow up, you're not going to have to learn how to drive because cars won't have a steering wheel because they're all going to be driverless. And he thought he didn't get it at all. He was 5. But I've been interested in this for a long, long time. My career was in software and IT. So I've stayed kind of a geek my whole career. And the last few years, I've been really mostly advising small nonprofit organizations about all kinds of computer things. So it's just a free volunteer thing. And then last spring, I heard about the AI ChatGPT thing, and I just thought, I need to check this out. And it was game over. Because ask my husband, like now all I do is talk about this AI stuff because I really think it's going to make lots and lots of things completely different really fast. Not fast like, next year or this year, but fast like in a couple years. Probably faster than anything any of us, even at your age and my age, have ever experienced. So that's why I'm talking about AI to you guys, because I work with a lot of nonprofit organizations. I had a long meeting at Holy Family Institute, just down 65 toward the city. I was there for a couple hours today, meeting with their high school staff and the people who do communications and fundraising. So I'm going to be helping them to figure out about AI because they're not doing anything yet and they should be. So this is just what I do now. I play with AI and I talk to people about it. But I use this title.
Sorry, that's just me.
Oh, I use this title because I want to start out very, very carefully to say, I am not an AI evangelist. I'm not here to convert you. This isn't church. You can come back for another time for church. I'm also not one of those people who's all doom and gloom about AI. So the good, the bad, and the ugly is kind of the theme I have, but really I'm sort of a pragmatist. Like, there's really cool stuff. Oh, God, yeah.
Could you use this one instead because we're not picking that one?
Oh, yes. New mic in the back. Okay,
Thanks. Sorry.
Okay, so when you get back there, wave to me if this one works for the recording. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, AI, there's cool stuff. I'm going to show you a few things. There's bad stuff, and I'll talk about that. And then there are some ugly things. So if you read the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or whatever, newspaper or Time Magazine or Newsweek, there are articles talking about how doctors are able to use AI to detect cancers much earlier. Like they're doing that now. And then there are articles saying that there's a possibility that the AI may go crazy all on its own and kill us all. Like be the extinction of humanity. That hasn't happened yet. We're here. It could. Nobody knows what the possibility is. Is it 0.1%? Is it 1% chance in the next 100 years? Nobody knows because this is changing really fast. So there's good, there's bad, and there is ugly. But really, and I'm about to go into demo mode here, but really what I want to say is, doesn't matter because it's happening. I mean, there's nothing all of us could do to get the government or big tech, Google, Microsoft, all those guys. There's nothing that all of us could do and another 100,000 like us to stop what's happening with AI. The toothpaste is out of the tube, or the horse has left the barn, or the train left the station. Take your pick. So it is going to happen. And I just think, man, we should just find out what it could do for us to make things a little better. Because they're going to do it. It's going to be coming out, and we can talk about it over dinner and talk about it. Maybe you can talk about it with your kids. I'll tell you a couple buzzwords. But regardless of what our opinions are about the ugly or the scary, that's for conversation. But the truth is that there are some really cool things we can do with it. So what I want to do is give you a demo of ChatGPT, which is the one that gets most of the news. Talk a bit about the ugly, the bad. Talk a bit about the ugly, and then largely, I'm hoping I finish by about 7:30 with that part. Then what I'd really like to do is say to all of you, what's something that you're curious about or interested in, and we'll just talk about, or I'll show you maybe a few things of, could AI help or not? Just to give you a sense of what it's like. So I'm not planning to talk for the whole 55 more minutes. But first I want to ask a couple questions. If you have used Google search on a computer or phone, could you raise your hand? Okay, thanks. If you have not used Google search, raise your hand. Okay, or other search, good point. Okay, or other searches. Okay, great, thank you. So I'm going to use search as an analogy. So for those of you who haven't done much searching on the internet, that part might not be as helpful to you, but for most folks have, hopefully it'll make some sense. Okay. Second question, how many of you have used, actually let me start, how many of you have heard of ChatGPT before tonight? Okay. How many of you have never heard of it until tonight, ChatGPT? Okay, so it's more people who haven't. So I'm going to talk mostly to you guys, which means that for those of you who've already heard of it or maybe even doubled with it a little bit, this might be a little repetitive, but that's okay. I'm going to do some demos too, so maybe you'll see some cool stuff. But I am going to try to make it that those of you who haven't heard of it before tonight, I'm going to try to make it that you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you don't understand something, wave at me, I'll stop talking, and I'll ask you to ask me a really good question, because I may go too fast, okay? So please feel free to interrupt me. So, ChatGPT, I want to show it to you first. Give me a second here. So, I'm on my computer on the internet, and I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to make this bigger so you might be able to see it. Okay, so this is ChatGPT. What it lets you do is have a conversation with the computer, and the computer knows a lot. So what I want you to think about is ChatGPT is like your son or daughter, or grandson or granddaughter. It knows a lot. It will talk with you, and it will respond, and you can ask it questions, and it'll kind of remember the conversation. So I'll do that now for a quick demonstration. So at the bottom here, it says message ChatGPT. Okay. So I'm going to type something in now. So let's see. I'm going to ask, tell me about the movie, Her. Okay, so Jim and I, right before we started, were talking about the movie Her. It's a science fiction movie that actually has a lot to do with AI. So Jim and I were like all interested in the conversation. So Jim was able to tell me lots of stuff because I don't think I've ever seen the movie. But here, let me scroll back up to the top. What I typed in was just, tell me about the movie Her. And what the computer, ChatGPT, did was to give, you saw that really long response, 4 or 5 paragraphs. So Her is a captivating science fiction romance film directed by Spike Jonze, released in 2013, set in the near future Los Angeles, and then it tells me lots more about it. I'm not going to read the ending part because I interrupted Jim when he was telling me about the movie and said, spoiler, spoiler, don't ruin it for me because I think I'm going to watch it, so I'm not going to read it now either. But what I can do is, so I asked it, tell me about the movie Her. And now I could say, I could type, what are some similar movies? Okay, so down at the bottom here, what I typed is, what are some similar movies? And ChatGPT is going to answer me. Okay. So what it did, and this is magic in many ways. This is really magic for it being a computer. If it was Jim or your son or daughter, you wouldn't be all that necessarily blown away. But this is a computer. It's free. You can do it tomorrow when you sit down. If you have a computer, you can go to ChatGPT. You have to create an account, but there's no credit card or anything. This is just free. Okay? Just like for those of you who's used Google search or DuckDuckGo or Yahoo search, it's like that. It's completely free. But what it's doing is it's having a conversation with me because, in part, it can understand what I type, which computers are getting better, but they still aren't great at it. So like a Google or Sam's Club or Netflix, you can't really go to Netflix and say, I really like that movie Her. What are some more like it? You can do something like that, but it won't have a conversation with you. ChatGPT does, and it really is why it's exploding, like it's all over the news and Time Magazine and all that. So I asked it one question about the movie Her, it told me about it, and then think about this. Then I said, what are some similar movies? And there are 2 magical things that happened in response to that simple question. I typed, what are some similar movies? And ChatGPT did 2 magical things. First, it understood what I meant, just like your son or daughter would. Second, it remembered what I had asked it previously, so it knew to tell me about movies similar to the movie Her. Okay? And this is where it starts to feel like a person, because that's the way people relate to each other. Of course, if I was talking to Jim and he told me about the movie Her, if I wanted to say to Jim, what are some other movies? I wouldn't say, tell me about more, Jim, tell me about more movies like the movie Her. But if I was on Google or a computer, I probably would do that. But this is like having a conversation. And then it comes back with, you saw it's pretty fast, and it creates this answer. So here's Ex Machina, Blade Runner, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless. So it gives you a list. And I could say, give me 5 more. I could type, give me 5 more. And it does. Okay. So you'd really treat it like a conversation. So this is the good. Okay, good, bad, and ugly. This is the good. And I really could spend until 8 o'clock just doing this part because it is so cool. Later, though, I want to have you guys ask me some questions and we can try some stuff out because I just picked that. I picked that really arbitrarily because Jim and I had that conversation right before this started. I just thought when I get here, I'm going to make something up because I don't want this to seem like I have some canned presentation that I've given 20 times over. Jim, I'm legitimate here, right? You and I had that conversation.
Yes.
And do not tell me the ending to that movie. Yes?
How does all that information get downloaded into that program?
So the question is, how does all that information get downloaded into the program? And it's a little different than that. Let me tell you how it works, which is up in the ChatGPT servers, the computers over the internet. ChatGPT has all these servers. It has last year gone out. They wrote this really complex program to go out and essentially read almost the whole internet. It's 1.6 terabytes of information that it read. I don't know how many thousands or tens of thousands of, encyclopedias that is. But what this AI stuff does is it goes out to some big set of information, like most of the internet. So all of Wikipedia, all of the New York Times, who is suing them, all of Twitter, all of these places. And then the AI, the neural networks and the stuff underneath, it uses that information to teach itself how to respond to almost any question. And if I knew more, it would be bad news because I'd continue talking. But we kind of got to how much I sort of understand. Does that help? And do you have a follow-up?
No,
Okay.
wouldn't dare.
Okay, yeah. That's good. But luckily for all of us, I don't know much more about that. Actually, I do. But luckily for all of us, I don't know it well enough to try to explain it. So that's the good part. And it really is great. And it is so amazing. So when we get into question and answer, it is so amazing. But, yeah. Oh, okay. It's just like hecklers in the crowd. I thought there was a question. Okay, so the bad. Now, what I want to do here is, I'm just going to leave it like this. So, yeah, give me just a second here. I am 61 years old, and without these, I can't see a thing here. I'm a youngster. I know. I love it. Okay, so. So, next I want to talk about the bad. And I really am going to respect that we're not going to spend all night here. So I'm going to just give a light coverage of this, but I want to have the credibility with you that you believe me when I say I'm not an AI evangelist. I'm not here to convert you to ChatGPT, whatever. There are bad things. And then we'll do ugly. Okay. One of the bad things is that, and there's been a lot written about this, is usually referred to as bias. And so not just ChatGPT, all of these new AI tools that are coming out, they may give responses that are biased, that have bias in the response. So I have an example here. Another cool thing that AI can do is it can generate images. Not pictures, but images. I did cartoon-like ones here, but you can actually generate images with some of these AI tools that fake you out. So the deep fakes, we'll get to that in a minute, but they look like a photo, but it's not, it's AI. I did ones that were cartoons so that we didn't get distracted by that part. But what I did was I typed, generate images of physicians in a doctor's office. And I'm not going to demo this because the images take a little longer, but that's what I typed. And these were the 4 images that came back. Here's what I noticed. None of them are over 40. None of them are any race other than Caucasian. Interestingly, when you ask for physicians, some of these tools will only give men. Okay, so that's a bias. It is. It's a bias. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characters there. I could probably generate 4 more images and 4 more again and still not get anyone over 40 and still not get anyone other than Caucasians and still have it be mostly guys. And it might even be worse. None of them are overweight. None of them are in a wheelchair. Pick your way that you could have bias. Now, and that's really not good. It's really not good. I'm just going to say it. In my estimation, that's really not good. But I have a little bit of a soapbox that I carry around with me. I'm not unique in this, but people who are talking about AI or writing about AI, many of us have the same message, which is if you use something that was created by AI and share it with anybody else, and there's something wrong with it or bad about it, like it's biased, let's say, it's not the AI's fault. Don't pull the plug on ChatGPT. It's your fault. So again, with Pat and Jim, we were talking beforehand, and I was mentioning another program, but I was saying that, you know, for the flyers that Karen puts together or the stuff that's on 956, some of these AI tools could be really helpful. Maybe to generate the description of the program or of the movie. So if we're going to show the movie Her, we might just go to ChatGPT and say, give me the information about the movie Her that a bunch of folks in a retirement apartment building would be interested in, and then copy and paste it. Give me an image from that, put it up, and we'd be done. We could, and maybe Karen, like maybe we should. But here's what I want to say is, if that flyer had something wrong, like maybe the movie Her wasn't in 2013, maybe it was in 2010 and ChatGPT got it wrong, that wouldn't be ChatGPT's fault. That would be our fault. So if I made that flyer, I have to stand behind the information that I put out, even if AI helped me put it together, whether it's these images or whether it's text or video or whatever.
So you have to stand behind the bias.
So yes, and so if what you put out is biased, maybe I have 20 pictures to go along with something, and all of the physicians are young Caucasians that are, you know, not overweight and whatever else. It's me that put that out there. Now, what you can do to overcome or to compensate for that is tell the AI, I don't like what you gave me, give me something different, and here's what I want. And I've done this. So with this one, if I was going to use this, let's say for Holy Family Institute, a nonprofit organization whose high school is 86% African American students, I would not want to put this up in front of those kids if we were doing career day about doctors. That would be the wrong message for those children. So what I would do is I would go back to the ideogram, the tool, the AI tool. I would type, those are all wrong. There are no black people in there. I want images that have some white people and some African Americans. Give me 4 more. And when I say to you I would type that, those are the exact words I would type. My tone of voice might not quite come through, but pardon my French here, I might say, give me 4 more, damn it. And it might kind of get the message. So back to your question about how does this work? It's using all this stuff from the internet and it's trying to mimic it. Well, a bunch of the stuff it's using is on Twitter. It grabbed all of everybody's Twitter. It grabbed all of everybody's Facebook. It grabbed all of everybody's whatever else. And so what it's learning, or what it has learned, is how to mimic all the people who created all of that. And so if I say, it's learning how to both interpret what you type and to respond to you with that in mind. So if I type, give me 4 more, damn it, it will kind of know, just like a person would, that I'm angry, that I'm upset. And it might apologize for offending me. I actually have seen this happen. So the response might be, I apologize, I'm very sorry, I've seen this. Let me generate 4 more images for you of physicians in doctors' offices where most of them are African American and there are a few Caucasians. And then it would do it. And I would probably get a lot more African Americans because I gave it what I want based on my values. Okay. So you're not just stuck with the first thing you get back. Okay. So again, this is another topic where we could spend an hour. I'm going to park it there and go to the ugly, and then just want to have some conversation with you about questions or things you wonder. So the ugly, I say this is the ugly part. Bad and ugly were kind of hard for me to decide between because it's just the dark side of AI. But what I decided to talk about is what's referred to as hallucinations. I should have put that on the slide, which I think is hysterically funny because that sounds so benign, right? Oh, AI hallucinates. If you go look on your search engine, Google or whatever, and type, does AI hallucinate? You'll get all kinds of articles that talk about AI hallucinating. It's like a technical term now. And to me, that's not it. It just lies. It just flat out lies. And it's really good at lying. And I'm glad you asked how it works, and I gave a somewhat concise answer, because the reason that it hallucinates is not because it wants to mislead you, not because there's some person there trying to do deep fakes, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. It's because underneath it's got some randomness, some probabilities that it's using. It's trying to guess based on everything that it has learned from the internet. It's just using all these complex probabilities to try to guess what the best response is. And when it doesn't find something, it essentially makes it up. And there have been a couple of articles over the last year about really notorious examples of this. The one, and I don't have a slide, but the one that's told over and over again is absolutely true. It was published in the New York Times. It's been cited by a bunch of other journals, which is, there's a lawyer who argued a case in front of a judge, and in his brief, he cited a number of cases and gave the case numbers to bolster his argument. The judge, or the judge's clerk probably, looked into them and found out that most of them were made up. This was last summer when ChatGPT was just starting to get used and written about. And what happened was the lawyer fessed up and said that he asked ChatGPT to help him write his brief, and he didn't do the due diligence to check that the cases were legit. And ChatGPT made stuff up, but it looked really legitimate. That's why I call this ugly, not bad, is that it can give you false information that looks really, really good. So all that stuff about the movie Her, if I actually was going to put that out on a poster, I would go probably validate the important parts. Who was the director? Is the name spelled right? That looked wrong. Who were the actors? What was the year? I would probably do that. So it might help me get a bunch of the information together, but it can lie like my 12-year-old son when he was in that phase of life. And you know what? It was so hard to tell the lie from the truth, drove me nuts. That's the case with this also. And I want to make sure that you understand that and really get it, because it can be so tempting to go to ChatGPT and type in a question and have it give this wonderful, cogent response, and you just believe it. But it can't. So I have an example here. I moved last summer to Alabama. I knew very little about Alabama. So one of the things was I asked, what are the best hospitals in Alabama? Now, first, I want to tell you that this is important to me, and so I wanted to be sure the answers were reliable. So I went to the internet, I went to U.S. News and World Report, and went and I screen grabbed its rankings. Whether this is actually the best system on earth, I don't know, but at least it's got science behind it. And the U.S. News and World Report stands behind this with their reputation. So they did the research. So UAB, Fayette, Russell, Ascension, etc. And then I asked ChatGPT that question, and it hallucinated. So I'm going to do it live here, which is always scary in a demo in front of people. What are the best hospitals in Alabama? And it says UAB first, that's good, but then Children's, Huntsville, Brookwood Mobile Infirmary Center. Those weren't, I'm not going to go bother going back, but trust me, the Mobile Infirmary Medical Center was not in that list from U.S. News and World Report, and I haven't bothered to look it up, but it might not even exist. It's possible. I also did a test just to test out AI. I asked ChatGPT, I'm not going to do it now for you, but I asked ChatGPT 100 times, what's the capital of Alabama? And numbers 1 through 82, it said, does anybody know the capital of Alabama? Montgomery. Okay, so the first 82 times it said Montgomery, and I thought, man, it's not going to do what I want it to do. I wanted this to be my example. The 83rd time, it said Birmingham. Yes! Dead wrong. The 84th through 100 times, it said Montgomery. But that was really great because that gave that example of the probability thing, right? So a lot of the, if most of the stuff on the internet's right, ChatGPT is going to be right. But somewhere along the way on some internet pages, apparently, somebody said that, you know, Birmingham was the capital, or Birmingham, capital, Alabama were all in the same paragraph, and ChatGPT just misinterpreted the paragraph or something. Okay, so it can lie or hallucinate for lots of technical reasons. So the point with this for me is, I want to talk further in the questions about these things, but I'd like to do it in the context of ideas that come from you. But basically, here's what I would say is, if you want information that you could find on the internet through Google, just go to Google or your browser of choice, search engine of choice. Okay, so if it's something that all you need to do is put the question into Google and it's going to come back with some links, just do that. But if you were having something that's more nuanced, more complex, or that's creative, that you want to write something like a flyer, Google can't write a flyer. Okay, so you can't go to Google and say, write the text for a flyer to advertise the movie Her to a number of senior citizens who live in a retirement home with in 4 paragraphs or less to fit on my 8.5 by 11 flyer. You can't go to Google and do that. It just won't do it. But you can with ChatGPT. So this is hard to understand in like an hour, and really it's just, what I recommend to everybody is just play with it. Something it's good for, and I'm about to just turn it over to questions, but I did want to show you one of my favorites, because it's on the internet too, but is, I want to cook salmon on the grill, asparagus, and potatoes. Give me 3 recipes and tell me the order to do everything. Okay, I'm going to cook salmon on the grill, asparagus and potatoes. Give me 3 recipes and tell me the order to do everything. That's the kind of thing that I could say to my husband. Hey Joe, I'm going to make salmon and asparagus and potatoes. Now, hey boss, will you just tell me the order to do things so that everything comes out at the same time? And I could not get Google to do that for me, by the way. Google does a lot of things better than ChatGPT, but this is one of those thought things that it doesn't. So what ChatGPT does is it gives me recipes, okay? So it made up this. I mean, I don't mean made up like hallucinated. What I mean is, all I told it was salmon, asparagus, and potatoes, and I wanted to grill the asparagus. So it gave me, I wanted to grill the asparagus. I said I wanted to grill the salmon. So it gave me a recipe for grilled salmon, the ingredients, instructions. It gave me a recipe for grilled asparagus, cool. Ingredients, instructions. Grilled potatoes, fine. And then order preparation. Preheat the grill. While the grill is heating up, prepare the ingredients for each component. Season the salmon, trim and season the asparagus, and slice and season the potatoes. Once the grill is hot, cook the potatoes first, since they will take the longest, placing them on the grill in a foil packet, etc., right? And it's really good. Sometimes it gets things a little wrong. Like I've seen some oven temperatures that were off. So it's not quite like a cookbook, but you know what? If you just want to be lazy and tap into the experience you have, but just kind of get a nudge to get started or try something different, then you and ChatGPT together can be better than you by yourself. If all you do is ask ChatGPT to do all the work and your brain turns off, you might mess up, because it might be dumb and say, preheat the oven to 150. Or preheat, I didn't have an oven here, but that's an example I've used. So the lesson, or the kind of the close of this part is, you and ChatGPT could be a killer combination if you know how to get ChatGPT to help you. It can be better than Google, but you do kind of have to be careful. And I didn't talk about the deep fakes. If somebody asks me, we'll talk about them, but it's 25 till 8, so I'm going to stop and say I'm open to questions. what I was thinking was we could, you can just ask me any questions, or if no, we don't get too far, then it could be ask me something and say, hey Deb, would I go to Google for this, or would I go to ChatGPT? And I could sort of answer and use that as a way to talk more. But I'm curious about, like, do you think the computer could help you more than it does already? And if so, might this ChatGPT thing make it, you know, better? Does anybody have any ideas of something like that? Yeah. Dorothy.
I did a search. And the search was, is there a second season of House of Dragons? Okay. Yes or no answer was all I was looking for. And it came back to me and it said something about the first season, and then it went on to say the second season will be coming in March.
Okay.
And I didn't ask it to search any further than that, but it did it on its own.
Okay, let me take that one. I'll repeat it, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. So she wanted to ask, is there a second season of House of Dragons? And just wanted yes or no. So was this ChatGPT, or do you remember what you used? Microsoft Bing Copilot something. Okay, let me just talk. So
It was far more than I expected.
yeah.
So it went beyond what I asked.
Let's just do let's just do it in ChatGPT and see what we get. So this little pencil here just starts a new chat so that it doesn't remember I'm talking about salmon and asparagus and potatoes. Because it might be kind of interesting. So is there a second season of House of Dragons? Oh, hang on. There we go. Okay, so my question is, Dorothy's question is
Well, it wasn't even that.
oh, well,
That is going to tell me, it's sort of like, has there been?
okay. Let's try it.
If I ask it this question, then I can expect it to tell me a lot about the second season, but that's not what I asked.
Okay, so let me try this. Has there been a second season of House of Dragons? Just answer yes or no. I don't know what it's going to do. Let's see. Okay, so I say, has there been a second season of House of Dragons? Just answer yes or no.
No.
Okay, I had no idea what I was going to get, since sometimes it is like a person. Sometimes it listens to you and sometimes not.
But it didn't, but it went beyond that.
Yeah, so
On its own.
now let me just ask, let me do a new one again. Yeah, okay, so let me ask, so I'm just going to ask this again. Yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, now, I want to talk for a minute about, I wanted to avoid this. There are a whole bunch of different AI chatbots, they're called. So there's ChatGPT, and there's Gemini, and there's Perplexity, and there's Poe and Pi. There are probably 6 or 7 that are popular, and then a bunch more. ChatGPT is the most popular. Okay, so there are a bunch of them. Some of them, when they did that training thing, so when I answered that earlier question and I said that it goes out and it reads like almost the whole internet and then it trains itself, well then, because it did that, it doesn't know anything that happened after that, because it doesn't go update itself on the internet for some of these, like ChatGPT's free version. But it should tell you if that's the case. So what it's saying to me here is, as of my last update in January 2022, so that's when this did that training stuff. So as of then, the second season had not been released yet, and then it did tell more.
It didn't commit itself.
So yeah, so you know, and I don't want to dig into that too much more. Here's what I can say is, if you want something that you could find on Google, go to Google. And something like that, I would say just go to Google and go find House of Dragons and see if there was a second season. But what I might do here is to, let me see if I can make something up here. So it knows that we're talking about House of Dragons. So maybe I might say, tell me what characters in history resemble main characters in House of Dragons. Okay, I just made this up. I have no idea what we're going to see. This is the kind of thing you couldn't do on Google, but ChatGPT is good at. Okay, so I'm just going to do number 5 there. So Alison Hightower, Alison's political maneuvering and influence at court may bear resemblance to historical figures like Catherine de' Medici or Anne Boleyn, who were known for their involvement in court intrigues and manipulation of political affairs. Okay, that's not, actually, this is a decent example. So what Dorothy wanted was a piece of information. Don't ask the AI for a piece of information because it either might not have it, because it was updated a while ago, or it might just lie. It might just hallucinate and be wrong. And it's really hard to tell unless you go over to Google, go over to the internet and find out. So just start there. But this question, you know, I might be interested. And I made this up on the spot, but there are lots more like this where you could ask something about politics. So in Brazil, Bolsonaro, maybe you want to ask not a fact about him, but what other political leaders in the 20th and 19th centuries does Bolsonaro resemble? Because you read some article in the Wall Street Journal or whatever you read that made you thinking, oh, so why did they throw Bolsonaro in prison? Well, you read this article and then you thought, I wonder who else had done that. And then you could continue your conversation with it. Okay? So and this is something where it's not, it would be hard to look at what it just said and say, that's a lie. Alison doesn't bear any resemblance to Anne Boleyn. Like, that's kind of a subjective thing. So it's saying she may, but what that might do is get your mind to say, hadn't thought about that. I might see Alison a little differently in season 2 if they ever have a season 2. Now that I think about her, kind of like Anne Boleyn. Again, I'm making this up, but this is more the kind of thing that you can do with the computer that was not available in the past. For people who are working or doing flyers for programs, for example, this ChatGPT and these AI tools, they can actually help them in their work. But at a place in life where you don't have to do that kind of crap every day, but you still are intellectually curious, this could be really fun to be kind of a knowledgeable conversation partner. Or for those of you who cook, I guess maybe many of you don't, but for those of you who cook, you might get some inspiration for menu items. Or actually, I used it at Christmas to help brainstorm presents. So I have a granddaughter who's 4 and a granddaughter who's 2. I texted my daughter, of course, like a dutiful mom, and said, hey, Charity, what do you think the girls would like for Christmas? Because I don't know exactly what all they have in their house. They have a lot of things. And she told me, toys that would be like putting things together, and they like to cook and things like that. And I really did. I didn't go to Amazon first. I went to ChatGPT first, and I typed in, I have a 4-year-old granddaughter and a 2-year-old granddaughter, and they play together at home a lot. And my daughter, I truly just parroted what my daughter texted me and said, here's what my daughter said they would like. Could you give me some ideas? And I could have done something similar on Amazon, but what I liked about the ChatGPT thing was it gave me some ideas, and then I asked it some follow-on questions. So I said more about these building block things. I forget what it was, but it was a conversation, whereas when you're on Amazon, it actually is using AI underneath, but you can't interact directly with it. So like when Amazon, if you've ever been on there, or Netflix, when they give you might also enjoy this. They're actually using AI underneath, but you have no influence over it. So I did it for that, and it gave me some really good ideas. So thank you, Dorothy. That was actually good. But I did get it to just say no.
I was shocked at the detail.
Oh, so she's saying she was shocked at the detail. Yeah. And you can continue and ask it to elaborate. Tell me, and like a lot of times I'll type, tell me more. That's all I type, truly just. Actually, so tell me more. Tell me more, hit enter. And it'll say, of course. And then it tells you more. Did you have another question? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all concerned about these number of scams that are on the internet anymore. And they're well done, hard to detect. What I'm concerned about is someone's gonna be able to push a button and tell this program to create 1,000 scams where I can make a minimum of $1 million on.
It's being done already.
I know.
It is. So, does anybody need me to repeat what he said? Did everybody hear it okay? Yeah. So deep fakes and scams is part of the really, really ugly, about which there's not a lot we can do. What I read about mostly is preventing yourself from getting scammed by the people who will fake a voice of somebody in your family and try to get you to send them money because they've been abducted or something like that. So that's all over the news. It's a little bit like the Nigerian princes of the 1990s, where you get these emails saying, yeah, send me money. So what's being recommended in a lot of articles is to say that for everybody in your family or who's close to you, have some word or phrase that everybody knows, so that if there is some kind of emergency, that's the first thing they'll say. So that it'll be, Grandma, it's Cece, who's 4 years old, so this is a bad example. Grandma, it's Molly. This is big. So, Grandma, it's Molly. I have been kidnapped, and I need you to send $15,000 by wire right now. But then she could say, Grandma, our safe word is basta. And if that's the safe word, that would be something that, some scammer couldn't do. So you just pick some word that do that. So I've read a lot of articles that recommend this. I haven't done it yet myself. I guess I should. I'm so used to my kids calling me for money that it's just like, of course you're calling me for money. But it will be a different world. To be more serious about it, though, it is a little bit like what we all went through when emails started to go out. And even now to say, you have to be careful not to click on things because you could end up with somebody hijacking your computer and doing bad stuff. And anything having to do with money, don't do if you're at Starbucks, because maybe somebody could get your password to your investment account, etc. So this AI stuff, Okay, I'm just going to mention something briefly because I wish I would have thought of it before now, but when it comes to the voices and videos, the AI technology stuff now is really cheap and really good. And what I wanted to show you that I just thought of is I did a video last fall with this app called HeyGen, and it cost me $15, I think. Maybe not even $15, but here's what I did. With my phone, I recorded me saying, hi, it's Deb. It's so delightful to meet you. I'm so glad. And then I did like 30 seconds of whatever. And then I uploaded it to HeyGen, and it gave me back 2 videos, one of me speaking that exact set of words in Italian, and another one of me speaking that exact set of words in Polish. And it's not perfect because I didn't pay the $80 to get the fine tuning, but I've seen some on the internet that did the fine tuning, and they are amazing. The president of Argentina is the poster child for this. He spoke at Davos at the World Economics Forum a couple weeks ago, and he does not speak very good English. He has a very thick accent. So he did his talk at Davos in Spanish, but his team, his Argentinian political team, they used this HeyGen app, the same app, but they used it and they paid, I'm sure, more than $15 and got a video of Javier, I forget his last name, the president of Argentina, a 12-minute video or something like that of him delivering the speech in American accent English. And it looks like his mouth is saying the words in English. It is freaky good. So another one was, there was a robocall in New Hampshire that went around that was a recording supposedly of President Biden saying, please don't come to vote today, there's no reason to vote, or something like that. It was fake. They finally found out who did it. But it sounded pretty good. It sounded pretty much like President Biden. So these things are available now, and you don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And so I think, so those are two examples. The one of the president of Argentina, I think that's a use of the technology in a great way. Because I watched the version of his speech where you hear him quietly underneath speaking Spanish, and then there's somebody in a different voice saying it in English like they do at the UN. I watched 2 or 3 minutes of that and thought it was interesting. And then I watched this video of him talking to me in English, and I watched the whole thing. It really made a difference. So that's good. The robocall, Fletch, I see you're here, do not even bother to say anything to me. The robocall of President Biden saying whatever, yeah, that's bad. Or the robocall of, or the call of the apparent voice of your grandchild saying, I've been kidnapped, send me money to bail me out or to let them release me. That's awful, awful, awful. So it's all the same technology, and human beings are using it for good and for really, really evil. Now, and what I think what that means to us is, just like we all learned, I hope, not to click on a link in an email and never to give out your password to your investment account. We've learned to just be careful about that. Lock your car door if you're parked on the north side. Lock the door to your apartment or your villa. Maybe not, I don't know here, but there are things like that that we just do by routine. This AI stuff, it's going to make other things we used to take for granted be more like that. So if you see a video, if it's coming from, if it's coming from a trusted source, remember earlier, you have to stand behind what you put out there. So if there's a video that's from U.S. News and World Report, and I don't want to get into anything about who trusts who, but if it comes from CNN, or if it comes from Fox News, or if it comes from Time or Newsweek or the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and it's really on their website, you're going to trust it. But if it's something that your grandson emailed to you, or your kid emailed to you, or sent a link, or was on Facebook, don't be as trusting as you would have been last year, because maybe some nefarious person created the whole doggone thing in AI, but made it look like that was happening. I'll stop on that one because I could go on too. Yes?
Is this used in sex trafficking involved right now?
Probably. I don't. So the question is it used in sex trafficking? I finally have a brief answer because I'll bet. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm concerned because we're in a political year, and I'm really worried about a lot of fake speeches and standings of various political people coming across, and how do you tell whether that is really them speaking or...
I have a strong opinion on this. I have a strong opinion. So the question or topic is, this is an election year, and it's actually the first time, maybe ever, first time in a really long time or ever, that more than half of the population of the world, of the earth, is going to be able to participate in a democratic election this year. So it's not just America. Of course, we're really, really important, but so just to go back to America, but there's going to be a cascading set of news articles about AI being used for different election fraud. I do have a really strong opinion about that, and it's what I just said a minute ago, which is I think that what's likely to happen this year is there's going to be this big backlash to social media and the everyday journalist that's kind of been developing over the last, decade. to where my response to you and my personal view of forming my opinion of voting this year, particularly because I moved from Pennsylvania to Alabama, so I have to learn everything about all local politics because I don't have 4 decades of being a voter to count on. So how I view it is I'm just going to those journalistic sources that I trust, where if the editor allows something to get published and it's found out to have been fake AI, that editor is going to lose his or her job. Period and amen. I mean, I'm telling you, if the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or Newsweek or the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette publishes something and it's found out to have been AI generated, that editor, maybe even the publisher, will be out of a job because it will be all over the news. So their reputation is on the line. Whereas the people who are posting stuff on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and all those, which is where a lot of people's news comes from, or who are posting fake links on Facebook that make it look like NPR wrote this, but it's a fake, that's happening too. Those people, if it's found out that they generated it with AI, big whoop. They'll just change their name, create a new Facebook account, and do the same doggone thing again. But if it's the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and it happens, like I said, that is end of career and possibly end of the news for them. The Post-Gazette could go down. So if it was found out that they had so cavalier an attitude toward what they're publishing that they let fake stuff go out, it could very well be they would lose a lot of subscribers and a lot of advertisers. So my speculation, and I've read a couple of articles that suggest this, but my speculation is because of the election this year, lots of folks are going to go back to only going to nytimes.com or wsj.com or foxnews.com to read their news. Or if they're on the TV's a little easier because mostly you're still getting news from stations that have to pay a lot of money to have newscasters. So if KDKA, for example, instead of Post-Gazette, if they were to publish some video that was found out to be AI, people would not, a lot of people would not watch KDKA News anymore. They would just switch to WPXI or whatever, because they'd say, I don't know. They had this AI stuff. I'm not going to watch them and trust that what they just showed of this overturned dump truck over in whatever is true. Maybe they just put that together. So I think that's going to happen, and I think it might not be all bad personally. This is me editorializing, but it could be that things got so loosey-goosey that we are backing into something that's maybe good when it comes to journalism. But on the other hand, I do think we all have to be careful about trusting what we see if we don't know that the source of it could have really serious consequences if it's fake. That was a long answer, but I feel passionately that the scary part we can mitigate on that front.
Thank you.
Yeah. Last question, because I see we're almost out of time.
So approximately what percentage of lies do you think there are on ChatGPT?
Okay, so the question is approximately what percentage of lies are there on ChatGPT? There have been some universities who've done studies of this, and somewhere between, so probably in the 20 to 30% range, because it kind of depends on the kinds of questions you're asking. So for some kinds of questions, like if you get better at, like so for some types of dialogue or conversation, if you're kind of better at knowing how to use it, it could be that it would be really hard for it to lie to you, to hallucinate, okay? For others, though, if you ask something really open-ended, like describe the movie Her, if we go back to that, it would not shock me at all if there were a lot of wrong pieces of information in that. Maybe even 20%, which is a lot. Okay. So, and I don't want to downplay that. It's nasty. So it's a Fletch, did you have something you wanted to say? Yeah, AI is more dangerous than nuclear weapons. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier and say, yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's not going to stop me from using it for my posters and flyers and whatever. But our government had better pay attention. And if we care, then we should be writing to our congressmen and saying, hey, pay serious attention to this, please. So, in a democracy, we do have some influence. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's really awful. So if you're the kind of person who writes your congressman or calls them, add this to your list, please. But other than that, I'm not going to lose sleep about it because there's not a lot I can do. But I'm not going to put my head in the sand and say, ooh, I'm not going to use that because it might be more dangerous than nuclear power or nuclear weapons. Because it's there, it's happening, so I might as well take advantage of it. But it is scary. I mean, it is the kind of thing that if you let that get you hyped up, you're going to be really freaked out because it really is scary. But most scientists view the probability that AI is going to eradicate humanity, or even like 10% of humanity, and in the low percents. Okay, so like 5%, 2%, 1%, 0.5%. You can view that as, that's awful, oh my gosh. Or, in the next 100 years, I'm going to be dead, so my grandkids are going to be dead. I don't lose sleep over it because I can't change it. Now, I might write to my congressman or call my congressman and say, hey, you know what, the air quality in Pittsburgh is terrible and AI might kill us all. You guys need to do something about both. Yes. Oh man, that wasn't an uplifting way to end the night, but it is a little after 8. So I'm going to stop and say, hey, I'm so delighted that you guys came. For those of you who have more questions or whatever, this is something that, as you might be able to tell, I just find so fascinating. So I'd be delighted to talk, but I'm going to say basta, which means over in Italian, and we're done. Thanks. Thank you.